Why does ShadowClan love being bad? Out of all the clans in the forest, ShadowClan is the one that's been the most susceptible to being corrupted by malevolent leaders, whether it be Broken Star and Tiger Star in the original series, or Darktail and Needletail in A Vision of Shadows. A lot of cynical readers may simply say that this is ShadowClan's designated narrative role. They're the mysterious bad guys with a scary faction name and are immediately emphasized as such in Firepaw's first meeting with the clan cat in Into the Wild. However, I don't think there's anything arbitrary about the way ShadowClan acts in the series, and in fact, Erin Hunter constructed a world in which they have really compelling reasons for acting the way they do. I already explained part of this in my video about Broken Star and ShadowClan. In that video, I talked about the universal trap that ShadowClan fell into by being seduced into evil by a strong, charismatic leader in Broken Star. We see this kind of tragedy not only in other parts of the series with the likes of Tiger Star, Hawkfrost, and Soul, but in the history of our own world as well. See, the thing that ties these tendencies together with ShadowClan's propensity to support nefarious leaders is their clan identity. This identity is the way that not only the reader and other clans see them, but also the fundamental ideas and attitudes that ShadowClan cats believe set them apart from the other clans. As implied by their very name and choice of territory, ShadowClan cats are dark warriors of the forest who take pride in showing strength by eliciting fear in their enemies. Despite the many adaptive advantages that these attitudes have had in allowing them to thrive in their environment, this part of ShadowClan identity has also historically been uniquely prone to abuse and radicalization by its many tyrannical leaders. The importance of clan identity cannot be overstated in Warriors when analyzing these books, especially the history of the clans themselves. Not only are their fundamental differences important, but they're also prominently on display throughout the entire series. For example, in the first pages of Into the Wild, we see Tigerclaw mocking Oakheart for he and his River Clan warriors' ability to swim like otters. Then when we shift to Firepaw's point of view, he's immediately greeted by hostile ThunderClan warriors like Longtail who reject him due to his kitty pet background. It's easy to just write people like Longtail off as simple-minded or xenophobic for his attitude towards an outsider like Firepaw, but really the entire foundation for each warrior clan is the same as that of a family. Like a traditional family, the clans are largely made up of people who are related to each other that unconditionally and intuitively love and protect each other. They even have a wise, experienced middle to old age leader who functions as a matriarch or patriarch of the clan in that they guide their moral attitudes, they make decisions in the clan's best interest, and act as representatives to the other clans. Heck, the word clan itself is actually synonymous with the word family. So when you understand the clans more as extended family units as opposed to just states, the reasons that they have such ingrained and homogenous identities that shape their behavior starts to make sense. For example, as a kid, whenever I asked my mom why I couldn't do things that other kids did or why they were expected to act differently than me, she would usually respond by saying, "Well, that's just not something that we do in this family." I'm sure most of you can relate. But that's the general attitude I'm talking about here. There were tons of things that I did or didn't do, and a certain way I conducted myself and still do to this day based on how I was raised that to an extent separates me and other members of my family from our neighbors and other families and such. Likewise, the same thing applies to the clans and warriors. Their actions and characters go above just this is good guy clan and this is bad guy clan, but instead there are real differences in values that are reasonable to expect from these clans, especially considering that they've competed with each other in different environments over the course of many generations. So applying this to ShadowClan, it's not that evil is a family value per se, but rather it's the attitudes that prevail in the clan that make them more prone to extremism. For example, ShadowClan takes pride in being the fierce warriors of the dark that spread fear to the hearts of their enemies. That's the kind of thinking that separates a ShadowClan cat from the others. We know this not only because that's what every other cat in the forest says about them, but it's what the cats in ShadowClan themselves say. Needlepaw and her friends didn't just make up stories about the good old days when everyone feared ShadowClan, they were told them by their parents, by their elders, who in turn were told the same stories as kids in addition to living it all themselves. It's undeniable that this pride in being feared and this innate lust for conflict defines what it means to live the life of a ShadowClan cat. Maybe you think that's stupid, but Thunder and Shadow shows us exactly what happens when those values are forsaken. The apprentices led by Needletail lost their sense of belonging and connection with their clan since it failed to live up to everything that it was supposed to stand for. When that happens, your clan is no more ShadowClan than the group of rogues next door. As a result, it disintegrated due to the fact that the actual clan no longer stood for the same ideas that ShadowClan represented. This can be taken to the opposite extreme though. In valuing their reputations as fierce warriors of the forest, ShadowClan opens itself up to embracing leaders who take that ideology too far. Not only was Broken Star's ShadowClan a fierce group of cats who attacked and terrorized other clans under the cover of darkness, but they also let these attitudes invigorate them to the point of going overboard, to forgetting the overarching warrior code that necessarily binds all of the clans together. They killed in cold blood, they drove out other clans, they kidnapped kits, and they neglected to show any kind of care, period, for their younger elders. While ShadowClan was largely successful in dominating the forest initially, they failed to achieve any kind of long-term success and harmony by ceasing to function as a warrior clan. However, this problem was written off as Broken Star being a bad egg, which he was, but ShadowClan's underlying philosophy was still there. As a result of the underwhelming leadership of Nightstar, ShadowClan couldn't help themselves in embracing Tigerstar to help restore them to their former glory. Once again, it was their deeply ingrained desire to live up to their name and reputation that blinded them from the evil of Tigerstar's mission until it was too late. By comparison, ThunderClan has avoided several potentially dark reigns. I'd posit that the reason for this is that ThunderClan's culture fosters the kind of righteous cats like Bluestar and Firestar that are needed to stop power-hungry cats like Thistleclaw or Tigerclaw from rising to power. After all, the very literal and metaphorical image of thunder and lightning is that of a deafening cry against darkness. ThunderClan cats also traditionally lived in literally the lighter and warmer part of the forest, where they were never defined by the literal or metaphorical darkness surrounding them. Naturally, a different sort of culture evolved there, and while these sorts of things don't tell the entire story, they certainly add up with the general directions these clans have gone. As corny as it may sound to generally write the good guys in a place called ThunderClan and the bad guys in a place called ShadowClan, there's a nice and believable logic to it all that the writers of Warriors created. Now, this isn't to say that ThunderClan is perfect or that ShadowClan is incapable of standing up to bad leaders, but it's important to understand the things that define them and make each clan great in their own right also have a negative and profound influence on their behavior. There are obviously trade-offs when it comes to each clan, but the fact that they've managed to survive intact so long implies that these competing physical and mental identities are a good thing. Otherwise, you'd expect to see a serious power imbalance or the complete disappearance of any one of the four clans. SkyClan is obviously a special case due to human interference that would ruin any clan. The point is that it's important for clans to embrace the things that make them different in order to survive internally and externally, while also recognizing their shortcomings and learning from their histories so they don't forsake the fundamental principles that unite them going forward. After all, those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it, and until ShadowClan finds a way to balance their identity and enthusiasm, you can expect more bad leaders going forward. But it's all sort of poetic, you know? If ShadowClan wasn't prone to being so bad, then how would ThunderClan ever get to flex its righteous muscles of goodness? Perhaps without these conflicts of identity, the clans wouldn't be able to check the worst of each other, and in turn, never demonstrate the qualities that make each of them shine. Especially ThunderClan. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you liked this video and you want to see more of them in the future, and you want to support this channel and this great mission statement of mine to bring logic and great scholarship to the Warriors fandom, then consider supporting me on Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/LizardWizard, that is LZRD WZRD, and you can pledge $1 a video or $1 trillion a video. I mean, why not? What do you got to lose? Anyway, huge shout out to Tennille Flowers for giving me all this art to work with in this video. Thank you to all the other artists whose art I used in this video. Links are all in the description. Go check them out if you liked those pictures and art and whatnot, because it's better than whatever I could do. So, yeah, that's that. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye. Ba-da-na-na-na-na.